So with that, I suggest we get started, and we welcome you to the GroundMAQER Summit about digital marketplaces in emerging markets. We are hosting this event here on Hopin, which is an innovative and interactive event platform. I'm Bengt. I'm the head of digital partnerships at LafargeHolcim, and in my role, I'm fostering the collaboration of our business units with innovative startups. Together, we have the ambition to build an innovation ecosystem for the construction material industry. And with me today here is my colleague Felicia, who is managing the whole communication of Maker internally and externally. And the two of us will be your host for today.
Thank you very much, Bengt, and welcome everyone to this first GroundMAQER Summit, where we will explore the vast opportunities of e-commerce in emerging markets. And I see we already have a lot of people joining. It's great to see everyone is so active on the chat as well. I think, how many time zones are we covering, Bengt?
Well, we had registrations from more than 80 countries,
Wow.
and our panelists actually, they cover time zones from the Philippines to Mexico and Colombia. So we have here time difference of 13 hours, which our dear friends need to manage, and we thank them already for that here.
Great, thank you everyone for joining.
So maybe for those who are still joining, a quick repeat and welcome to everybody just joining now. Again, Felicia and myself are members of the Digital Innovation Unit at LafargeHolcim, also known as Maker, and we will be your hosts for the next 90 minutes. But before we get started, we would like to quickly run you through the program that you know a little bit what you can expect from the next 90 minutes.
Great. So we will begin with a fireside chat soon between Miljan from LafargeHolcim and Romain from the African startup Jumia. And they will be discussing how e-commerce has been evolving and how it is impacting their businesses.
Thereafter, you will have actually the option to choose amongst 3 panels, and those panels will run in parallel. So you can hop from one panel to another, or you can stick with a panel that you like. And in all the panels, you will have founders, CEOs, and senior leaders from investment funds, startups, and large corporates. Those panels will be moderated, and you will have there also the opportunity to raise your questions, which will be answered then at the end, or which will be addressed to the panel participants.
And after these panel discussions, we will come back to this main stage and we'll do a little wrap up. And also, if you haven't done so yet, we invite you to visit the country exhibition page, which is on the events landing page. You'll see the link in the chat now, and there you will be able to see some interesting facts and figures from our country organization in our emerging markets, such as India, Colombia, Nigeria, and many more. And this will be available for you also after this event so that you can connect with us at any time. With that being said, let's begin the fireside chat of today. And I'm very excited to welcome nobody less than Miljan Gutovic. In the last year, e-commerce in our African markets has been surging with an over 700% increase of e-ordering. And Miljan and his team are actively testing new innovative startup solutions such as fintech and last mile delivery to cater to the world's to the region's middle class and increase economic growth and drive social development.
Excellent. And our second speaker on the fireside chat will be Romain Christodoulou. Romain is leading Jumia's commercial department across all markets and all business units. And for those of you who have not heard of Jumia before, Jumia is the leading e-commerce platform in Africa. It is also referred to as the Amazon of Africa. Jumia was also the first startup unicorn in Africa, and in the meantime is listed at the New York Stock Exchange. With more than 1 billion people living in Africa and 500 million internet users, obviously there's a huge market potential for e-commerce. And Jumia has the ambition to simplify those people's lives by enabling them to buy and pay online for millions of products wherever they live. So welcome, Romain. It's great to have you here. And I can...
Happy to be here.
Excellent.
Great. And we also encourage you to use the Q&A section as well to address any questions that you have to our keynote speakers. So with that being said, over to Miljan and Romain. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you. I hope you're all well, you're all healthy and safe. First of all, in my name and in the name of this wonderful LafargeMAQER team, I would like to welcome you to today's event, and special welcome to our special guest, Romain. Before we start, just a short speech from my side on my view and the generally view of my colleagues in the Middle East and Africa. I have spent most of my professional life in the construction industry, and I still believe that construction industry is probably the least innovative industry that exists. And this innovation that we have seen in the last few years, they are driven by outside companies like Jumia. Personally, I was involved in the e-ordering project in Africa called Lead Retail that started several years ago, and we have achieved remarkable results. Now we are thinking about new opportunities how to improve our customer service, how to understand the buying behavior of our customers, how to provide additional service to our customers, and how to transform our business in long term.
I think he was just starting with the question around the opportunities that you're exploring of Jumia
and in Africa, yeah. So yeah, I think just to give some context, because often there is a misconception about the opportunities, the digital opportunity in emerging markets. So if you think about Africa, I will try to divide this answer in three parts. Okay, the first question is, what is the opportunity as of today? I think the second point for us is what is the opportunity, the upcoming opportunity in the next 10, 20, 30 years? And then for us as an e-commerce player in the African region, how are we going to size this opportunity? So to the first point, I think Africa is a massive demography. You have 1.3 billion people, and already from this 1.3 billion people, you have 500 million people that are, connected to the internet. So when you think about it, you have the equivalent of the US plus Brazil population that has access to internet. On the other side, you have 17 million, SMEs and merchants across the continent that are very much limited by their geographical footprint in order to operate their business. So the first objective of Jumia was to connect these SMEs and merchants to the customers, because we are talking about, as of today, $4 trillion household on B2B spendings per year. The second element for us was to see what's coming, right? And we understood that we were at the very, very beginning of an untapped opportunity. To take this population, 1.2 billion people is going to be a 2 billion population in 2050. A country like Nigeria will have 500 million people. And on the other side, if you look at the landscape of offline retail today, you have the equivalent of 70,000 people per shop. By comparison with Europe or with the US, where it's less than 1,000. So people are going to need access to services and goods, and there is a high probability that the offline retail is not going to capture this full opportunity. So for us, it's quite clear that this massive middle class coming, this massive population, this connected population, is a very, very important market as of today, but is yet to be really, tapped into what it can become. And the last question for Jumia was, how do we capture this full opportunity? I think first, and probably we'll be able to discuss a bit more about that, but it's about the business model, setting up the right verticals, so a marketplace expertise, connecting sellers to consumers on e-commerce, but also on quick commerce. A logistic expertise, in order to be able to deliver the products, and a payment expertise we'll see that, but a payment gateway, like the integration of payment methods, but going further with financial services. And when you look at Jumia today, we are present across 11 markets, which covers around 70% of the GDP and 70% of the internet population. So we believe that we are well positioned to seize this opportunity. And that would be my quick introduction about this, emerging market digital opportunity, which often is in people's mind as something in the future, but that's a reality now. And that's just a reality which is indeed nothing comparable to what it will be in the upcoming years.
Thank you, Romain. And I think in the meantime, we also have Miljan back.
Apologies, Romain. I guess we have a little instability in our network in Switzerland. And we are in digital world. So apologies once again. So we will continue. You did answer my first question. Thank you very much. So I guess for me, it would be good to know if you compare what you're seeing today and what you're going to see probably next couple of years to back in 2012 when you started this great journey called Jumia.
So on this comparison, on this evolution of e-commerce since 2012, I think that Jumia had different phases. We had different lives. I think we started as an e-commerce company with a basic, I would say, e-commerce services. Fast, we expanded to restaurants, and we see across this trend that there is a massive need from consumers to get faster delivery. So we are expanding to verticals where we develop quick commerce. We connect grocery shop to consumers in 30 minutes. We connect restaurants more and more to consumers, and that's becoming a growing part of our business. When you think about the shift of on the way people consume, we started as an e-commerce player on, I would say, simple categories such as televisions and phones, because it's very concentrated around a few models. It's high GMV providers, and the more we move, the more we developed ourselves, the more digital is getting to the most common consumers. We see a massive shift towards, I would say, day-to-day products, a massive shift towards fashion, beauty, FMCG, and that would be, I would say, a second trend from us, and that we are obviously capturing as much as we can, and which is accelerated since the COVID period. On this COVID period, maybe a few words. We saw that most e-commerce players have shifted towards essential. I think it's very true for Jumia in Africa. So further than fashion, FMCG, and grocery, I think that there is a bigger focus now around the food business, around the grocery products, and people are getting more and more access since this COVID period to these products with us. So that would be a few elements. Of evolution since 2012, and let me know if it answers your question, or if you would like more perspective, maybe on some comparison element. I don't know, with other e-commerce players. You let me know, Miljan.
No worries. And what is, if you can maybe elaborate a little bit on the long-term plans for Jumia, if you can share it with us. I talk about 5 to 10 years. Let's imagine we are in 2030. What is Jumia for Africa in 2030?
So Jumia is present. So we have 4 verticals. So we have, a marketplace verticals with e-commerce and quick commerce. I think the basing point of e-commerce is to be able to answer most common needs to everyone. So to really be the number one retailer, not e-retailer, but retailer across our different markets. I believe there is a massive opportunity around quick commerce, and I would like to see Jumia in a couple of years present with very geo-targeted fulfillment centers, able to deliver very quickly, range of products, whatever it be, grocery or other products, as much as food from restaurants. I think the Jumia in 30 years will leverage its asset even more than what it is today. When we entered Africa, initially we wanted to be like Alibaba, so to be a marketplace of third-party logistic providers. But the reality is we had to build these logistic capabilities in-house. So we have our own warehouses, we have our own delivery fleet. And I believe that the Jumia in a couple of years, but that's also very true now, is going to extend this kind of services to partners. So we would like to partner even more with the big corporates in order to help them reach further B2B clients in their different markets, offering the technology for the client to order, the logistic to deliver the products, and obviously the payment, maybe payment facilities and payment gateway, with JumiaPay. So that would be a kind of service that we are going to further extend. But on top of that, other verticals of Jumia are going to be even stronger than what it is today. If you think about the advertising, in most of our markets today, corporates are doing marketing offline. They're doing televisions, billboards, in order to communicate around their products or their company. I believe online, because of this very connected internet population, is a very strong way to target the right audience and to be way more efficient in the communication around the brands and to sell as well, so in terms of call to action. So I think that Jumia advertising is going to be definitely, I think, one of the one-stop destination for corporates in order to do marketing efficiently. So that would be another key element of the Jumia in the next couple of years. And I would just add the last point. We have JumiaPay. JumiaPay initially, it's like PayPal for us. It's an integration of payment methods in our different markets tailored to the way people are used to pay. But we are developing new services. If you think about that, one of the biggest barriers for Jumia is the ability of its merchants to grow their assortment. But this barrier is coming from working capital constraints, cash issues. So Jumia is developing loan services to sellers. On the other side, we are developing installments to consumers. So I believe that these two services are going to also be very much more present across, Jumia's businesses as a whole.
Perfect. Romain, one last question, I guess, from my side. So Jumia has been working very well for a few years with LafargeHolcim. So maybe for the audience, especially internal audience that we have on this, how do you see LafargeHolcim and what we have done in the last few years when it comes to this e-commerce, e-ordering?
So it's a very good point, and indeed we are quite happy about the partnership, which started mostly in Uganda and in Côte d'Ivoire. I think we started with the first necessary block, which is to be able to give Lafarge, a platform so Lafarge clients can order. I don't think we have been up to the extent yet, of offering the full range of logistic capabilities for Lafarge, as a way for Lafarge to reach clients in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, and that's something that I believe we can, keep building for the upcoming years. I believe also, if you ask me what could be our partnership in the next, 5, 10, 15 years, I think it will also be, around this entire B2B connection between your clients and Lafarge, but further than just selling products, like working around maybe payment facilities, further than the delivery only, working around the reach. Jumia has 40,000 what we call Jumia Force agents that are able to sell products offline to reach clients, and I think we could also help Lafarge reaching even more clients by leveraging this independent Jumia Force. So very happy about the partnership. It started with a connection to the platform, selling some products. I think we can go further, and that's the logic with any partnership, and I'm quite happy about what's next.
Excellent. Glad to hear that. Thank you for your time once again, and thank you for sharing your experience and your thoughts and views on the current status in Africa, and also in the future what we could expect. From our side, as you know, LafargeHolcim we have made first steps in e-commerce in Africa. We launched our own platform, which is called Lead Retail. Today, we are present in 15 countries in Africa, the momentum has been great. Last year, I have seen countries, achieving incredible rates starting in May and already going up to 60-70% of utilization by August, September, and October. So we will continue with this, and I'm very happy that to have the opportunity to work with the tech companies like Jumia, and there are others in Africa as well. So for us, we need to accelerate. We have a momentum now, especially in the area of e-commerce and logistics, because this is what we need to still to develop. And I'm actually very optimistic what the future holds for us in Africa. Once again, thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Miljan, for your question and your time.
Thank you very much, Romain and Miljan, for sharing your thoughts on the power of e-commerce. And I see that we already have some questions in the Q&A. So I see here a question for you, Romain. Hi, Romain. How do you manage risk exposure versus CapEx investment? For example, or in other words, being a first mover in a market needs investment, but no guarantee of success. How does Jumia ExCo manage risk versus investment?
It's a very good question. I think at the end, the risk comes with the opportunity. So the thing is, if you wanted to develop e-commerce in Africa, you had to build the CapEx, you had to build the OpEx in order to operate there. So it was not, there is no possibility not to do so. So we had to do so. And the way to manage it is eventually to make sure that you grow the business as per expectations. So finding the right corporate partner, developing the right services, making sure the balance, the right mix of categories, and making sure you monetize your assets. Like, this CapEx that you can see, as a line of cost at the beginning, at the end can become a great asset because we have the ability to offer this last mile to most of our partners. So I don't know if it answers your question. That's a very wide question, but it's true. I would say CapEx was necessary, but it's going to become an asset because at the end we are developing things that were required, but become quite essential to operate in Africa for many of our partners.
Yeah, so if I understand you right, it's leveraging the assets, and you also mentioned kind of finding the right partners, right? There is also one question coming about how does Jumia say a collaboration with large corporates in Egypt, for example, with Lafarge Egypt here?
I don't know exactly the details of the partnership in Egypt. I would say that it's at its beginning. I know that we've been exploring quite far in Côte d'Ivoire and Uganda, and I know that we are at a path to replicate in most of our markets, as Miljan mentioned. But I would not be able to comment more into details the Egyptian partnership between Jumia and Lafarge.
That's something that the future will hold. We also have another question from Jimmy Khan, also to you, Romain. Have you had any failures in countries, and what were the learnings?
Yes, we had some failures on verticals and on some countries. At the end, we started in some countries that we had to close. You may have heard that we decided to stop operating in countries like Cameroon. I would say that that's always a failure because you have the right resources, you set up the business, works in other markets, but sometimes it takes too much time, and you also need to refocus on where you think there is the more value in a certain period of time. So I would say that has been a difficult time for us, but that's also I would say it was also a good decision because we refocused on where we believe the value is for us in the next coming years. And we have day-to-day failures on most of the businesses we try to create because at the end we innovate. So you always have some failures, and with the failures comes the success.
Exactly. It's never a failure. It's only innovation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot again to the two speakers on this fireside chat. I think we got quite a lot of interesting thoughts for the next panels. I mean, we liked your comments about quick commerce and leveraging the capabilities for last mile delivery, right? And kind of to these opportunities to offer loan services to sellers. I think we will hear now in the panels a lot from some innovative entrepreneurs, CEOs who also want to drive in that direction. So I think that was an excellent start.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much for hosting me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So welcome back to the main stage. We are sure we have enjoyed the good discussions, and some of you will be just now dropping in from the inspiring talks and discussions with those startups, investors, and large corporate representatives. So welcome back here to the main stage.
And we would love to hear from you. So if you just want to share a quick feedback in the chat, that would be great. What are some of the main insights that you gained? What have you learned today? Just type quickly in the chat. We'd love to hear. And but we also have Philipp now on board, our Chief Digital Officer at LafargeHolcim, and we would love to hear from you too, Philipp. So welcome.
Yeah, hello everyone, and also warm welcome from my side at the very end of our GroundMAQER Summit here. And I want to start essentially my review of these 1.5 hours by saying, or divulging a little bit about myself. I'm actually a fanboy. I'm actually a fanboy for a lot of these space startups that we hear so much about, and we're flying to Mars with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and so on. I think personally, it's an exciting story when it comes to the engineering feat and the science that's behind it and the global ambition and so on. But even I have to admit that in the end, these great entrepreneurs will bring probably something like 2 humans to Mars in the next 25 years, right? That's the ambition. And on the flip side of it, the people who are assembled here at this GroundMAQER event will work on bringing 2 billion people to urban areas in the next 25 years. And I think that's just such an inspiring and such a humbling situation that we, all of us here, touch this massive transformation of how humanity lives, of how essentially our world develops, of how the urban centers of our society will look like after this generation. And obviously, a lot of these 2 billion people will be moving into cities in the 3 regions that we covered here, the Asia-Pacific region, the African, Middle East and African region, and Latin America. And I am personally humbled and proud, and I hope you feel the same way, that I can help all these people make that transition to a better world, to a better place for themselves and their families over these next 25 years. Because obviously, in those 3 regions, when you live in an urban area, it means something completely different for you when it comes to access to better living conditions, education, health, global connectedness, job opportunities, and so on. And I think that's what we should focus on. And I think it's a great and ambitious goal to have. And I applaud all of you that you're also setting your targets on contributing to this journey and making this happen. I had the opportunity to listen sometimes into these very good discussions that we had over the last 90 minutes. And first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for their contributions. Obviously, our wonderful panelists, keynote speakers, everyone who joined essentially by video and providing their insights, but also the very, very active audience who asked so many great questions and had this very interactive session going. And it's very hard to, pinpoint a couple of ideas here, but I saw a little bit of common trend looking through the 3 sessions that I'd like to share with you. And I think really starts for me with the panel that we had on customer insight, where lots of people talked about how to provide digital access to the emerging middle class, how to bring people online, how to essentially make sure that people who are taking the step from essentially their current living environments to this new digital age, and how to facilitate this and keep them online. And I think we know a lot of these stories of what it actually means and new opportunities in these geographies when you suddenly have access to all this information, communication, ability to exchange, transparency, what is where, and so on that goes with that. And then essentially that followed through for me a little bit with the second panel, where we spoke a little bit about how this process has accelerated over the pandemic, and how very non-digital customer segments have been penetrated, and how essentially these non-digital segments need to be kept engaged, need to be kept online, can be drawn into the fold of the emerging marketplaces that will be covering essentially the building materials product category, but also many other product categories. And I think we learned some great examples, I think, from India, how this is being done, and how essentially we're gaining momentum and traction. And essentially we are for sure, returning back to a new normal and not to the normal of 2019. And that brings me, I think, a little bit to the third panel on payment innovations, where we learned a lot about how important having access to funds and payment will be for this transformation, how important fintechs are in this transformation. But we got another interesting thought, I felt, where we learned about the fact that innovation is transversed and is copied, not north to south as it used to be, but actually south to south. And that's obviously also at the core of the summit, that we wanted to bring together all these different time zones. I think you talked about this at the introduction, from, I hope I get it right, from the Philippines to Mexico. And essentially all these time zones are at different stages and very different developments around providing the new marketplaces which will power the move of 2 billion people to urban areas. But they can learn so much from their various experiences. There's so much to share and so much to interact and collaborate with, and to expand on new opportunities across all these geographies. And I think that's really what makes this topic so exciting, and what makes it so exciting to work on this right now. I'd like to close the session by saying we do want to keep in touch. We want you to keep in touch among each other. We will be sending out a feedback form to all participants, and I hope we hear from you. But also we're engaging at a full front with all our operating units in new technologies, new innovations across this footprint. So please stay in touch with us, reach out to us with your ideas and essentially your ways of how you want to transform the building material space. Maybe as a last comment, keep Zach in mind from the Startup Bootcamp Africa, who said, don't think like an innovator only, think like a customer, think like a venture capitalist, and that will be what drives your success in innovation going forward. Good luck on the journey. Thank you for being with us on essentially providing the new cities of the future for 2 billion people. And we do hope that this was a great starting point for a lot of collaborations and cooperations to come. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Philipp. And also thanks from the moderators to all the participants and the panelists. Maybe one last comment, the session was recorded, so you will be also able to kind of review some of the panels which you have not been able to listen to. So you will also get these recordings.
Yes, and the recording will be on the events landing page, so you can access it from there. Great.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good time. Stay healthy.